Hi, good day. So my name is JD and I will be your teacher for Science, Technology, and Society. So we are still at the second chapter, chapter 2, Intellectual and Scientific Revolutions. We're already done discussing about scientific revolutions that started off with people or specific people's contribution, like the Copernican Intellectual Revolution, Darwinian Intellectual Revolution, and the Freudian Intellectual Revolution. Pero yung intellectual revolution na pag-uusapan natin ngayon ay intellectual revolution na um, contribution ng lipunan, contribution ng society. It's a societal intellectual revolution. So there are very big and strong historical or ancient civilizations na nag-contribute sa state ng education or state ng science and technology ngayon. So, the first one is Lesson 9, African Intellectual Revolution. So, nakita nyo dyan, the African Intellectual Revolution, we're all African. So, bakit we're all African? Let's listen for a short short song, short clip from the song of Shakira in 2010 called Waka Waka. Pakinggan natin ha. So, saan nanggaling yung we're all African? We're all African na sinabi ni Shakira sa kantang ito. Actually, this song covers or strengthens the, what do you call this? An anthropological theory na ang mga tao ay nagmula sa Africa. They say that we're all Africans because Africa actually became what do you call this? Africa, one of its very known and oldest cities, Egypt, no, is known to be the cradle of civilization. Anong ibig sabihin ng cradle of civilization? Silang naging lundayan ng sibilisasyon. So Egyptians, no, kagaya na natalakay natin before, Egyptians are really great builders. They created measurement mathematics for construction purposes. They invented qubit system and used it to build the pyramids of Egypt. So sila yung gumamit ng first mathematical measurements para magawa yung pyramids of Egypt and other infrastructures na meron ang ancient Egypt. Africa is also known as the oldest civilization in the history of humankind. Ang science at ang kanyang technology is actually very rich and very diverse. In the Northern Africa region, Egypt is located, Nubia and Aksum is located, is the development of a complex state system. Africa became known as the cradle of civilization, which I have mentioned a while ago. Sila ang naging lundayan ng sibilisasyon. Sa kanila nag-umpisa ang unang empire na kilala natin sa kasalukuyan. Bakit? Because the first state system were built along the Nile River. The Nile River supported the life of Egypt. Okay. Di ba nga sabi nila, ang lahat ng sibilisasyon, ang lahat na maraming sibilisasyon ay nabuhay sa tabi ng ilog. It started near the rivers. The ancient African civilization were first to dwell with applied science in agricultural economy, metallurgical sciences, textile and engineering productions, ancient natural remedies, and field of science dominated across the region. And if you remember, no, chemistry is an old field that actually started in the land of Chem. The land of Chem is known as the Egypt. No, sila ang una nag-practice ng agricultural economy wherein they tried food production kasi nasa tabing ilog sila. Metallurgical sciences, they tried to dwell with metals. Sila ang unang gumamit ng kilala, known to be first people to harness metal as a tool, and other engineering products. Asian civilization and culture also adopted some of the variety of African practices kagaya ng African plants including coffee, palm oil, African rice, and other agricultural crops na meron sa Asia actually started with Africa. They also mastered the art of nature, and they are the first shamans to practice natural medicine using natural remedies. Nag-practice din sila o sila din yung nag-umpisa ng paggamit ng mga natural remedies, paggamit ng mga halamang gamot sa paggagamot. One of the most powerful empire was built in the regions of Africa is the ancient Egypt. It is the oldest known civilization that lived up to date. Hanggang ngayon, meron pa ring Egypt. The Nile River became the lifeblood of Egypt as it sustained life and culture of ancient Egypt until now. The river still flows. So rivers are very important in establishing a society, establishing a civilization. I cannot actually say if Egypt is actually the first, no, but Egypt is the first to be recorded as an ancient civilization because it's not just what do you call this, hindi lang siya maliit na social unit. Sila ay gumawa ng sarili nilang empire. They created an empire. So it is one of the most iconic and powerful civilization in the history. Its territory stretch as far as north, today as Syria, and as far as south, today as Sudan. Long before it became an empire, it was a series of independent cities and states, namely Heliopolis, Memphis, Abydos, Thebes, and Nekhen, which are all located along the Strait of the Nile River. So sa Nile River, kung titingnan nyo dito sa image na to, no, these 5 cities are located along the Nile River. But of course, ang territory ng Egypt, sakop buong yan. Sakop yung mga areas of Syria and Sudan. But then again, because of political wars, no, civil wars, na-compress ang territory ng Egypt ngayon. No? But actually, Egypt expanded their territory all across these 5 cities and created their own empire. In 3100 BC, all cities were united to form one Egyptian state. So yung 5 cities na yon together with other states was established as one Egyptian state, isang empire. It was so powerful that it sustained its power along with succession of 300 pharaohs. Imagine, no, 300 successive pharaohs ruled. So that's not just 7 generations. 7 generations is approximately 7 generations kasi is approximately 200 years. So having 300 pharaohs, that's 300 generations, no? That approximately 300 generations that ruled over because, no, of apart from good leadership, but also because of science and technology. The pharaohs are the protectors, rulers, and servers as the liaisons of the people to the gods. Upon their death, they believe that they will transcend as God themselves. They are mummified and buried in the labyrinth tombs like the pyramid. Okay. Scientific practices are very evident during the ancient Egyptian civilization. One example would be the mummification. Mummification is a process of preserving the body, adding salts as well, no, and other chemicals na pwede makatulong sa pag-preserve ng body sa mummification. So they practice this, no. The pyramids did not only serve as tombs, but they also serve as representation of innovative infrastructures of the state. So yung mga pyramids of Egypt, yes, they are tombs, but apart from that, they also show a strong empire. Di ba kung titingnan natin ngayon, yung mga may matataas na high-rise buildings, they're also the economies that are really strong and really very powerful. So ganun din during the ancient times. The Egyptians are very very good and very marveled with their engineering, no, with their constructions. Kasi hindi lang naman pyramids of Egypt ang ginawa nila. They have the Sphinx, pyramids of Giza, and they also have their temples. They developed mathematics. Sa kanila po nag-umpisa ang measurement mathematics na lumago na lang ngayon, no. The metric system started with them. They developed cubit as a measurement of length. It is the length of the arm and fingers, the cubit system. The cubit system, ito yung ginamit nila in order to construct the measurement for the pyramids of Egypt and other ancient structures na meron sila. It was said that they used this to build the Pyramid of Egypt and massive structures in the ancient Egypt. Their infrastructures also show sophistication on architecture and using nature as means of lighting. The pyramids as an example. Okay, so how can paano natin masasabi to, no? Ang ancient structures ng African civilization, ng ancient Egypt, is actually sophisticated with architecture. Let's say it's green architecture. Paano natin nasabing green architecture? Question, paano nga ba nagkakaroon ng ilaw sa loob ng Pyramid of Egypt? How do they carry light inside? Paggabi, yes, gumagamit sila ng torch, no? Pero ngayon, pero pag umaga, ang gamit nila para magkaroon ng ilaw sa loob ng Pyramids of Egypt, hindi torch. Ang gamit nila ay sunlight. The Pyramids of Egypt, ang Pyramid of Egypt ay may butas kung saan pwedeng pumasok ang ilaw. At pag pumasok ang ilaw doon, may mga mirrors, no, na magre-reflect ng light para ilawan yung buong pyramid, yung loob ng pyramid. So it's a good reference for architecture. Ngayon, tinatawag ito ng mga architects as green architecture, na ngayon kailangan talaga natin kasi we use a lot of energy, a lot of electrical energy para pailawan yung bahay natin. Well, actually, kapag umaga, you can only you can use natural sunlight, no? Like example, here in my room, I have a glass wall. No, I only allow the sunlight to enter. Okay? And no, apart from that, it's kung titingnan din natin kung manonood kayo or magbabasa kayo ng about sa ancient Egypt, grabe ang what do you call this? Matindi yung kanilang security system. Ang security system nila ay matindi kasi matindi yung mga traps. May mga contraptions sila na nilalagay. Maling apak mo lang, ganyan. At nakakamatay kapag tinangka mo talaga siyang pasukin. Up to date, may mga ganun pa ring parts ang ancient Egypt. Okay, ang mga hindi na e-excavate na mga artifacts sa Egypt. Egyptians also combined mathematics and astronomy. They were able to make 24-hour division in a day, and they also used this to create the first solar calendar to feature 365-day ratio in 1 year. So yung time na 24 hours natin sa isang araw, nanggaling din iyon sa mga Egyptians. It is a contribution of the Egyptians when they studied mathematics, diba? They created mathematical measurements. Tapos, inaaral din nila yung mga stars, and then pinagsama nila, actually this is astrology, mathematics and astrology, and then they created a separate entity by creating time. Okay? So, time division sa isang araw, sa kanila nag-umpisa ang 24-hour division in 1 day. Pero hindi lang, what they call this, hindi lang sa kanila nag-umpisa ito. Madaming civilization na nagsasabi na sa kanila nag-umpisa ang 24-hour division in a day. Pero sila ay isa sa mga contributors ng 24-hour division natin sa isang araw. Di ba meron tayong 24 hours sa isang araw, sa kanila nanggaling yung konsepto ng 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 24 hours. Nag-umpisa. They developed methods in engineering like methods in surveying the lands along Nile River creation of dams, canals, and even irrigation systems that supported the life and allowed the flourish of agricultural state. So as I have mentioned, sa Nile River, no, a lot of civilization started near the river. Nile River is actually a very good river. Sa tabi ng Nile River, they have a very, very fertile land that supported the life of Egypt. Ah, sa kanila nag-umpisa yung land surveying, saan maganda magtayo ng infrastructure, saan maganda establish ng ganitong infrastructure. Kasi imagine, nagtatayo sila ng infrastructure sa desert. And alam natin na kapag sa buhangin ka gumawa ng infrastructure, it would be really, really difficult to make a sturdy infrastructure. Pero nagagawa nila because they learned how to survey lands na pwede mong pagtayuan ng infrastructure. They also created an irrigation system kasi nga no they give high regard on agriculture and farming, which is actually very good kasi pwede itong tingnan ng mga current institutions or current government officials that agriculture is actually very powerful kasi agriculture ang nag-sustain sa Egypt. Agriculture sustained the life in Egypt. Pero although nandyan si infrastructure. And if you're also familiar no in the history of Egypt, Egypt also stored uh, uh, grains sa granaries. Sa kanila din nanggaling yung granaries na yan. They also developed, supported flourishing agriculture of the state. So they also have their own writing system called the hieroglyph. Okay? It is known to be the oldest writing system. Kung titingnan ninyo yung oldest writing system, the arm represents as this one, arm, vulture, leg, cup, hand, feather, viper, pot, wick, feather, cobra, cup, lion, owl, water, chick, stool, heel, mouth, cloth, loaf, chick, etc. So lahat ng mga naka-inscribe sa walls nila, no, this has meanings. This has um, uh, different meanings as it seems. Para siyang what we call emoji ngayon natin. 'Di ba? Emoji has its own definition or has its own meaning today. So parang ganun lang din yung time nila. It was developed at around 3150 BC during the Old Kingdom and was used to inscribe on the walls, pots, and other clay products. So the first, ang writing system nila is called hieroglyph, and then ang kanilang canvas is, ang kanilang sulatan ay mga walls at mga pots at mga clay products and not necessarily papers. Following this was further development of new writing system which is like a cursive called the hieratic. Una nila hieroglyph or hieroglyphics and then nagkaroon ng hieratic. Yung hieratic system nila almost the same with hieroglyphics pero more like cursive na sinusulat na nila sa papel called the papyrus, the first papers. So, papyrus, which is somehow similar to paper, were derived from papyrus plant, which are very rich, growing along the Nile River. This writing system was more modern way of keeping records was used to sustain culture. Siguro wala na silang mapag-drawingan sa wall nila, no? Just kidding, just kidding. It's time to level up their own communication system kasi if you have to deliver a message, sinusulat na lang nila. Okay? As I have mentioned before, no, alchemy started from the land of Chem. And alchemy is where chemistry is derived. And Chem is the Black Land, which is the land of Egypt. The oldest forms of science oldest forms of ancient science started in Africa. That's why we started in African civilization. But because Egypt is the most known flourished civilization in Africa, they are, we consider it, we consider na yun yung i-feature natin. So, chemical principles were applied in ancient Egypt like mummification, leather tanning, cloth dyeing, ginagawa nila yan. Art of mummification is also one of the most ancient scientific practices of the ancient civilization, for it is the art of science of preservation. This practice can somewhat be observed in the ancient Philippine society. They also developed distillation system that came from process of fermentation of beverages and brewing of beers in different regions of Africa. So Africa is a very, very rich region actually. Sabi nga nila, di ba, 50% of the gold reserves is found in Africa. Africa is very rich. Pero bakit ang isang kontinente na mayaman sa natural reserves ay naghihirap? Okay? It's because of political, social, and economical uh, discourse and issues, no, that we will not be discussing. But I want you to realize, no, that they are scientifically rich. The land is rich. It's just a matter of how you will cultivate it and how you will interact with others as well. But then again, no, um, the African civilization is the oldest civilization that we have and that we know of, and is very rich as well. And it's also nice to study their culture. Study It's nice to study their culture. It's also nice to study their contributions because they have actually contributed a lot. Okay, so uh, Lesson Spotlight. African Intellectual Revolution is the first societal intellectual revolution since it is the cradle of civilization. Sila ang naging lundayan ng sibilisasyon, ng mga sinaunang sibilisasyon. Their civilization has enormously contributed to the body of knowledge. Their long and best cultural contribution in linguistics, mathematics, science, and technology has largely influenced a lot of succeeding civilizations and various civilizations all around the world. The ancient African civilization has contributed a lot in various organizations or various civilizations all over the world, cross-culturally. No, they have expanded their territories. They have expanded their knowledge with other civilizations. That's why for 300 pharaohs, a lot of generations followed before Egypt fell. But until now, Egypt is still standing. Okay? So that would be all for African intellectual civilization. I only featured the Egyptian intellectuals, ancient civilization kasi sila yung unang-unang civilization. But more than that, Africa has a lot of political units along its region. So, should you have any questions or clarifications about the African intellectual revolution, please feel free to comment at the comment section, or you may also email me. Okay? So that would be all. Bye po.